Hello, everyone, and welcome to our next episode of Spotlight on Success, where we are bringing you information that you can actually implement in your business to take it to the next level. And I am so honored today to have Cheryl Hill with us, who is going to teach us all about tips for starting and growing a nonprofit business. So, Cheryl, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Shannon. I'm really glad to be here. It's an honor.
It's my pleasure to have you here. This is a topic that we have not covered yet and is a very, very important one for a lot of women out there who are interested in starting or maybe even running and struggling with a nonprofit business. So before we jump right in, let me give everybody a little bit of background about you. Cheryl Hill is founder of Clear Cause. It is a new nonprofit organization that aims to keep America's children safe when they travel abroad. Her 16-year-old son, Tyler, died a preventable death on a student ambassador trip to Japan in 2007. She is dedicated to establishing national safety standards for all U.S. programs that take our youth on study abroad trips. So Cheryl, thank you for coming. Thank you for taking the stand that you are with your business, and I look forward to picking your brain today.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to being helpful.
All right. Well, let's start with one of my first questions, what are the two most important things that women should consider before starting a nonprofit?
Well, other than the critical first steps of federal and state laws around nonprofit business organizations, NPOs frequently called nonprofit organizations, there are a lot of laws and standards that you have to align by. And for that, I look to professionals. I've started a number of nonprofits that I have handed off to other people for food and housing shelters, etc. The important part for me is to engage those people that stay in front of those laws to actively engage me. Most states have a nonprofit organization. Minnesota has the Minnesota Association of Nonprofits, MAP. And I went to MAP for those initial steps of, filing your 501c3 or determining which C you should be. We actually also have a 501c4 public policy nonprofit to advance law on Capitol Hill to keep kids safe abroad. And donations to a C4 are not tax deductible. Donations to a C3 are. But other than, knowing what the state and federal laws are and relying on professionals who can help you with that, we engaged Karen Grease, who sits on the committee of the IRS tax exempt committee at the federal level. So we have some really big heavy hitters that keep us lined up as clear as possible. And there's really not a huge expense in using nonprofit organizations to start your foundation, but you do need that expert legal and accounting expertise at the state and the federal level. The other thing that I think is critically important is what I call the 4 Ps. You need to understand the purpose, the people, the process, the problem, and the payoff. What is the big idea? How are you going to deliver? And who are you going to engage? That was a lot of research for us. We spent a few years actually determining the reach, depth, and breadth and narrowing in on where our scope of support would be and where it would come from. In America, we use the Census Bureau to determine how many kids are actually encouraged or qualify or could go on a student travel, volunteer, adventure, cultural exchange, or study abroad program. That determined our reach in America as $45 million. We didn't even get our feet off the ground, and we were getting calls from other nations saying, what about our kids in America? And there are rules right now at the federal level, at the U.S. Department of State, that better protect students in America than there are that protect students going abroad.
Wow.
But we hope that at some point in the future we'll be able to expand our reach to include kids. But right now we're narrowing down on kids in America. And then, following the 4 Ps, what is our process? What is our plans? You have to have a plan for everything. Your strategic plan, your financial plan, your fundraising plan, your marketing plan, your public relations plan, your communications plan. And there is a lot of planning that is evolved around creating a nonprofit. So the 2 things I consider to be most important are engaging pros in state and federal law to make sure that you're doing it ethically and correct, and to avoid that, backwash that nobody wants to have in the early stages of startup. And the second one is to understand your Ps, the people, the purpose, the process, the problem, and the payoff, how you're going to deliver on your promise. What does success look like? I hope that's helpful.
Absolutely. Wow. really, I think when you think about establishing a nonprofit organization, you do think about the legal hoops that you need to jump through and the things that you need to check off on your list, but you have encapsulated that so beautifully with your outline of the P's that I think that would help any woman listening to get a handle on how she needs to streamline that process. And I loved your tip about really making sure that you're falling within the legal parameters, and having an expert as you do on your team has got to be invaluable.
I am extremely, extremely fortunate to have the resources that we have. And to that, I would say that if you're looking for resources who can help you, because budgeting startup money is tough, and you need those assets. Not all assets have to be fiscal. I actually received those referrals from a retired group of professionals that reach out to help nonprofits, and every state has them. There is guru.com, GURU.com. There are a lot of resources online that help you connect with very powerful people who are willing to engage in your cause.
How nice. So
yeah.
it's like the SCORE organization for nonprofits. So Guru, I love that. That's wonderful. What would you say is the biggest challenge that women face in trying to start up a nonprofit organization that would be different from a man trying to do the same thing?
Shannon, when I was growing up, my mom taught me that you had to work twice as hard to be considered half as good as a man. And she made sure that I was well tooled to be able to play in that part. I grew up in my professional career in an IT background way back in late 1970s. So I've been living that life. I think that I think that paradigm is also shifting. And when I was doing some research for this presentation, I noticed that women entrepreneurs are actually the lead in sustainable and profitability right now. So let's clap out loud for women entrepreneurs. The biggest challenge for me when I'm out there, trying to raise awareness and coming up, the question that I receive the most often is, let me see your plan. I want to see your financial plan. There seems to be this, but if my husband, who is also engaged with us, Alan, asks the same question, nobody seems to bring that up to him. So for women, I think having your act together on your financial plan, on how you're going to address donors and grant writers or grantors about where their money is going and how well you're going to be a steward of that money is probably the biggest challenge.
I don't understand the double standard myself. I have experienced it myself. And yet you would do yourself a disservice by not having all of your ducks in a row and really having things nailed down and ironed out on paper. You need to absolutely know where you want to go and the steps that are required to get you there. And if you've got it written down in a plan and can succinctly articulate it to those from whom you are seeking support, so much the better in streamlining that process.
And there's some great models out there for that too. I mean, I know that even just using any office program, you can type in, a financial plan, and you can get a good guideline around that. The other thing I would like to say about big challenges, especially for me, and for women, is that we wrap our heartstrings, our emotional ties around our causes in big ways, whether it's breast cancer, whether it's homeless children, whether it's child trafficking, or whether it's safe global youth travel. And when we are emotionally engaged, we sometimes forget that message that comes across as emotional, and we have to shift that. I think we need to embrace the corporate can-do, I can fix this, the value proposition, and put that back before so that you can lead with the prize in mind.
Very wisely said there. Thank you, Cheryl. That's fantastic. I'm going to move on to your strategies and your tips. So I would love to hear, and I would love to have you share what 3 strategies you feel are most effective for raising awareness, which I think is probably one of the most challenging aspects to running a nonprofit successfully, is drawing those people and drawing the right people in.
And the biggest life lesson I earned early on here is your message. Is that the way that we shape our message and the way that we tap into our community of interest is very important. In our situation, we deal a lot with very sad and very bad things that happen to young students that travel abroad. But what we want to lead with is how we can change that and what that promise is. So one of the most important things in creating that reach is making sure that your message delivers on that promise. We had to actually re-engineer our message, and our website went through an entire region within the first 3 months of our launch. And then there, of course, is what part does your audience play in? For us, we wanted to reach out to the students who are in middle, high school, and college. And so we have found ways that we can integrate through school activities and student governments and DECA marketing programs, et cetera, to engage the students. But we also want their parents. And so we went out and created a plan that showed us where mothers and fathers live and breathe when they're looking for resources to advantage their children. So now that we have a plan, we know our audience, we know where they are, we have to figure out what playground they play in, and we have to learn how to play there. Mm-hmm. And we did that through launching our, obviously, a website that has helpful tips to help keep kids safe abroad with some kind of edgy things that I think most parents and kids don't think about before they go. And social media today is where this young generation lives and breathes. And I think any business, any nonprofit, any person, any artist should have a very strong social media background. Does that mean that I am a social media guru? No. I can't be a jack of all trades, but I went out searching for the social media guru who could help integrate all those elements. For us right now, we are very proud to be working with 3Gs, 3 Girls Media, and Buzzledum, both women entrepreneur programs. Buzzledum is helping us with financial reach and awareness by their audience is the same audience as ours. And 3 Girls Media is very successful at social media reach. So, of course, you need your social media platform then. Your website is important. It needs to have a blog. You need to have constant new information and resources out there to engage the public in a conversation. It is called social because it's two-way communications. And of course, there's Twitter, there's LinkedIn, there's Facebook. There are some really cool ways to make your Facebook shine for not a whole lot of money, like North Social. North Social has been really great helping us move our YouTube outreach. YouTube is huge. Kids love it, live and breathe on YouTube. And knowing how to take all of those elements and bring them together with your message, which are your keywords, which is how people are going to find you, are those critical first steps. So now that you have your message and you have your infrastructure for your social media and you have your professional, the biggest thing that you can do is sit back and monitor and review and create quality around that for your reach. We're about to launch ours on October 25th.
Wonderful. Yes, well, that again, just a great way to present the information about the main things that you need to focus on. And the best point that you brought across is really learning to bring all of those elements together to work cohesively and maintain that consistency within your message. And I think that that's something that all business women and men struggle with, are all these different entities, and how do we get them to work together? So I love the point of really drawing on the resources and the experts in the field to help you pull it all together into one focused direction.
And then evaluate, review, reprogram, and rework. You have to constantly see what's working or not. Yeah.
Absolutely, always. Indeed. Cheryl, please tell us also about, you've gone through so many amazing steps to get where you are today. And if you wouldn't mind sharing, I would love to hear a little bit about some of the biggest challenges that you have had to overcome in this process.
Some of the biggest challenge I think I had to overcome, and it was almost a dead stopper, was that early on when we had founded our 501c3 and we issued our IRS tax-exempt Form 990 to get a letter of determination for tax-exempt status, the next critical step was insurance. We're a young startup. We're a nonprofit. We are just getting started. We're barely have our roots going down. I'd call us a seedling. And it was really difficult finding insurance. We went around to a lot of the people that would get normal, business insurance, and it was really, really tough getting affordable insurance. We were getting insurance quotes for, directors and officers and general liability that were in $5,000 to $10,000 range. For an upstart nonprofit, that could be a deal breaker. And so we started doing some research, putting our minds together, and through an act of divine providence, we found the Alliance for Nonprofits. The Alliance for Nonprofits are a group of nonprofits that have formed together to create affordable insurance. And the insurance for our nonprofit was a few $100s by comparison to $5,000 to $10,000. So I'm a big stakeholder in Alliance for Nonprofits, strong believer, love what they do for me. And our insurers are the same amazing group like Hartford. So I love that we live in a country that makes charitable works a valued asset. And so let me just shout out now for the Alliance for Nonprofits. Well done.
And that's a really big piece of the puzzle in protecting yourself. And I love that you found a resource and that you could share it with my audience today that is highly affordable, because again, it really boils down to leveraging the funds that you do get in the best way possible and not overspending where you don't need to.
Yes, tactical strategy. Thank you.
Indeed. So as a woman nonprofit leader, what has been your greatest achievement thus far, and what was the tipping point for you?
Oh, there are so many. Every day I look at every inch, every bit of progress that we make as a milestone. And I would say that hands down, my greatest achievement, my greatest pride are the team of assets and intellectual powers that have joined our cause. We have on our board some very powerful, very dynamic, very engaged people, including world leaders like Tom Woods of the Global Connect Network and Sangeeta Jain, a magistrate for child safety, like Stacey Santerre, who runs a study abroad program for the University of Minnesota, who federal office says is one of the most well-run safe programs in America. And we have Anna Marie Saarinen, who is a very progressive child advocate, starting 1 in 100 for Newborn Coalition to protect babies with heart monitors. And she's an extremely credible lobbyist on the Hill. And then we have Neil Huatari, who is a worldwide security specialist, who is a hostage negotiator. He worked with the U.S. Department of Justice. And our advisory board, Dr. Stefan Furst, who does some very, very prominent research on rape on campuses in America and abroad, crisis prevention and rape intervention. And then we have Dr. Gary Rhodes, who was he won a huge grant, a huge federal grant to build SAFETI, SAFETI, to protect kids. And through our extremely credible and powerful house of Karen Greaves with the IRS, Tiza Mendoza with Fuzzledom, and Erica Montgomery with Three Girls Media, and all of the other organizations that really stepped up to help us, like our attorney Jamie Foreman, our attorney Julie Finch. We have Webify, who helped create our website. Our greatest asset, hands down, are the intellectual assets, the hearts and strings that are like-minded, helping us push forward.
You really have put together an amazing, priceless team. It sounds like touching on just about every area where you need to be reaching out tentacles or connecting with people who are already doing amazing things to help promote your cause. And for those women who are watching, who are interested in getting more information on how they can support you and your endeavors in Clear Cause or learn more, how can they find out more from you?
You can find us on Twitter, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and on www.clearcausefoundation.org or clearcausecoalition.org. Our YouTube channel is Our Simple Truth. And I do have to say, I neglected to mention Tim Aleka, who is a CFO with Larson Allen on finances on our board. So let me put that little plug in there. Our biggest pride is really for general outreach, how we've integrated all of our social media into our website. So that's probably the number one place, clearcausefoundation.org. We'd like to ask you to please give us your latte. We need it. $2 makes a big difference. Thanks.
Indeed it does. It's amazing how a little can go a long way, especially when it adds up and multiplies on its own. So for all of you who are watching and are interested in learning more, I am sure that Cheryl would be more than happy to connect with you via those social media networks. And if you're interested in supporting Clear Cause, please do. This is a woman with an amazing heart and passion for protecting our youth and giving them those opportunities to experience enrichment in their lives by exploring other cultures and other people. So please do support her in her endeavors. For more information, you will find that below this video. And Cheryl, we thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for being on our show and for sharing your tips on how women can begin the process of starting or growing a nonprofit business.
Well, thank you, Shannon. I think that you're a great resource for all women entrepreneurs, and I applaud your efforts.
Thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.